A lot of times in life, people just see a more polished version of an individual. And you and I know that generally behind that polished person, that there's a backstory,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And everybody's backstory is different, right? Everybody's upbringing is different. And my backstory just happens to be a little unique. And obviously, I would not be here today and would not have met you. We would not have the brotherhood we do. We would not serve in ministry like we do. We would not do life like we do. Our families wouldn't be together like they are, if it wasn't for God's grace, if it wasn't for God's mercy. And, Kris, I was born in an alcoholic family. I was raised in an alcoholic home. And I know that there's so many people out there today in society, especially with COVID, that are struggling with addiction, whether it be alcoholism, drugs, depression, anxiety, food disorders. And that's the thing is people like to classify and categorize addiction. But I tell you this, alcohol addiction is the same as drug addiction, is the same as food addiction, porn addiction. Somebody is suffering from something. I thought that living in an alcoholic home was a normal way of life. I was born Catholic. I was raised Catholic. We went to Sunday mass every Sunday. Little Joseph was an altar boy. So I knew all the altar boy movements. And, I was raised by a mom and a dad who were doing their best. My dad happened to be a functioning alcoholic. So for those of you who don't know, or maybe you don't know what a functioning alcoholic is, a functioning alcoholic is somebody who can get up and manage and handle the day-to-day operations and duties as a husband, as a father, as an employee, as a person in society. And my dad happened to be a functioning alcoholic. Was there times that I saw him hammered, passed out? 100%. But for me, it was just a way of life.
Yeah.
My brother and I, we thought it was normal. Parents would have friends over. They'd be partying all night long. My dad retired 40 years, Arrowhead Water, as a heavy diesel mechanic. So his love language was drinking all night, in the garage, working on cars. Any mechanic's dream.
Yeah.
In the garage, with your friends, working on cars, drinking all night long. Was there some extracurricular drug activities going on? Absolutely, there was. But once again, Kris, we thought it was a lifestyle.
Yeah.
Like we thought this is the way families operated.
It became your culture.
It was my culture. It was my culture. It was my upbringing. I was never ashamed of it. It never stopped me from bringing friends over. Our house was the house to be. I don't know if you ever had a friend growing up where it was like their house was the house to be.
Yeah.
Our house was the house to be for my brother's friends and my friends because our parents were partying nonstop. So there was never really any curfews. There was like, when the street lights come on, you got to be home. Sure, but once you get home, the lights can stay on all night. So our house, was the house to be. And you and I have an amazing mentor, an amazing friend who's named Tim Story. And Tim always talks about being birthed in pain.
Yeah.
And I honestly know what it's like, Kris, to be birthed in pain. When I look back, I was birthed in pain. I carried all those years with me. I heard this analogy one time by Joel Osteen. And Joel talks about, you carry all that baggage, and before you know it, you're trying to go through a TSA check at the airport, and they don't let you through because you got so much junk in those suitcases and that luggage that you're just so bogged down, and you got things that shouldn't even be with you, and they're stopping you at TSA saying, you can't go through. That's literally how my life was. My life was so many suitcases of so much baggage that I had accumulated over the years, Kris, that I never knew the effect.
Yeah.
I never knew the toll. I never knew the places or spaces that it would take me in a negative way. So, sophomore year in high school, 4 grandparents, my mom's mom and dad, my dad's mom and dad. Both my dad's parents pass alcoholism.
Wow.
Grandma's an alcoholic. Dad's dad hit and killed, drunk driver.
My goodness.
Okay. Mom's side of the family. Grandfather passes, alcoholic. Grandma, who was my nana, the only grandparent I knew when I was born, only grandparent alive, 1978. You could do the math how old I am. Just celebrated a birthday in December. Only grandparent I knew. It's crazy because I look at my kids today and it's like they have both sets of grandparents.
Yeah.
I was raised by my grandma. Okay. And my grandma, who we called Nana, my brother and I, she was like our everything. She was the protector. She's who watched us, who cared for us, who provided for us because she knew what was going on in the household.
Right.
She knew the chaos. She knew the craziness. She knew my dad. She knew everything that was going on. So that was like our place of refuge. Like, let's go to Nana's. Let's go hang with Nana. Let's go stay with her for the week. Let's go stay with her for the weekend. So that was like our place of refuge, our place of retreat, our place of comfort. And, I'll never forget sophomore in high school and my grandma passes. Sophomore year in high school, my grandma passes. I'm going to an all-boys Catholic high school. Never forget, Don Bosco Tech in Rosemead, California. Grandma passes, and man, I tell you, that was one of the toughest things I had ever had to endure up until that point in life. Because you talk about the one person who believed in you, cared for you,
right,
watched over you, was your protector, is now taken from you. And knowing the environment that you live in, that sense of security was now gone.
She was like a foundation for you.
Foundation. But two main things happened that year. My grandma passed and my dad got sober.
Wow.
My dad became sober. You may wonder, how'd your dad become sober? Because you hear so many stories of sobriety.
Yeah.
One of my favorite TV shows, Intervention. Love Intervention. Some say yes, some say no.
Mm-hmm.
Some receive, some reject, right? But everybody has a different story.
Yeah.
And the story goes, is my mom had set up an intervention for my dad.
Wow.
She tricked him. He thought he was going in the hospital for one thing. Little did he know that his family was sitting there waiting for him.
Wow.
So I know what a true intervention is like.
Yeah.
So when I watch that intervention TV show till this day, my wife and I, that hits home because I know what it's like to see my dad's face when he walked in and was like, wait a minute, this is not what I signed up for.
Yeah.
And to say that in that moment, he was open and willing to receive the help that was offered to him. But my dad knew. He knew that if he didn't accept the help, my mom was going to leave him. He knew if he didn't accept the help, that his kids, his two boys, were probably no longer going to be around him or involved in his life.
Yeah.
So he was faced with a major life-altering decision. And what I can say, Kris, is he accepted the help. He became sober. And honestly, it probably is the biggest blessing in our entire family's life, because a lot of times you talk about biblically generational curses, right? Or even in life, generational curses, whether it's heart disease, right? Whether it's smoking, cancer. There's so many generational curses and things that are passed down, right? From your parents, your grandparents, you inherit traits, behaviors, in this case, hereditary and addiction and alcoholism.
Yeah.
So, my dad gets sober and you would think like, wow, that's the perfect ending to the story. Like, you're raised in an alcoholic home, your grandma passes,
your dad gets sober.
Like, wave the white towel, throw it in. The Mendoza family's good. Like, you guys are going to, be on your merry way on the yellow brick road and, onto this new lifestyle and family. And, Kris, I wish I could tell you that that's the way it was. And I think for somebody who maybe wasn't birthed in pain, yes, that would have happened. But you have to remember, I was exposed to so much over so many years that was a lifestyle.
Yeah.
So just because dad became sober, that was great for him and my mom.
Yeah.
But for me, I was carrying all the wreckage of the past. I was carrying all that baggage.